Hello. So often in real life we notice things that seem unusual, but we have no way of knowing how they're connected to events elsewhere. In the next few minutes, we hope you'll see incidents that seem strangely familiar or faces that you've come across. If so, you might help solve major crimes, including murder.
We start with a case that made national headlines 6 weeks ago, the murder of Julia Webb in Sandway in Cheshire. It captured attention because, as with the killing of Rachel Nickel on Wimbledon Common or the death of Margaret Wilson on Humberside, it seemed so unfair, so hard to understand.
We've been married for 27 years. In fact, in 3 days' time, it will be our wedding anniversary. I know everybody says they've got the best wife in the world, but I mean, really, you'd have to get, have to be something special to be Julie. We're more or less telepathic in some ways, because each would know what one another was thinking. You never know these things are going to happen, do you? I sometimes blame myself, really, because she bought me a mobile phone for my birthday, and I sometimes wish now that I'd rang her up that day, but I was just too busy working. I wish I'd have told her I loved her. But she knew that anyway, I didn't, our time of life, you don't have to keep telling one another these sort of things. I mean, you know it. She knew I loved her, and I knew she loved me.
Have you seen this? Caring for the elderly.
The Webbs live as 3 generations: Grandad Bill, husband John, and 2 sons, Nick and Chris.
Morning, Mum.
Julia was the only woman in a very male household.
Morning, Grandad. We all quite get on, really. Maybe, obviously you get under each other's feet now and again, but there's never too many arguments. I work nights, come home and go to bed in the morning, early morning. She was just a typical mother. She's always fussing you, and you're not going out in that air, and the usual mother things.
Julia used to take the dog for Rosie for a walk, and I saw her going up the path, turn right and going up the road, and she got opposite the end of the house there. She turned round, waved.
Come on, girl. Here, Rosie, come on.
That was the last I saw.
I was walking back from work along Chester Road, and as I was approaching the Weavon Road junction, I noticed a man on the other side. As he got closer, I noticed he had a walking stick. It was like a reddish colour. Never seen one like it before. As I walked past him, he stopped to cross over Chester Road. He was in his 60s. He was about 5'8", had white hair, going bald on top. He was wearing a 3/4 length beige jacket and beige trousers. And I continued to walk down Weavon Road, turned back and saw him walking up the right-hand side of Kennel Lane.
He may be a crucial witness. Further down that lane, still at around 3:15 p.m. on that Wednesday, the 22nd of July.
I noticed the car, Silver Orion. It pulled into a lay-by in front of me. The driver sat there for a few seconds. He then got out of the car, walked towards me as though he was going to say something. As he got level with me, he just walked straight past. I turned round to see what he was doing. He was just staring into the trees, basically. I turned round again as I got a bit further up the lane, and he would just turn round and went back to get into his car. 5'6", 5'7", in his 30s, medium build, short cropped black hair with a full designer stubble beard. Quite dark skinned. He was wearing a beige padded body warmer and blue jeans. And I thought at the time it was a bit odd, looked a bit suspicious. He just seemed out of place, really, basically.
you awake? It's nearly dinner time. Your mum's not back yet.
Yeah, okay, Grandad, I won't be a minute.
The first place I went was Kennel Lane.
Oh, shit.
As soon as I saw Rosie, yeah,
What?
I thought, well, there's got to be something wrong. I thought, if Rosie's here, well, my mum's got to be here somewhere.
Mum? 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 Excuse me. You've got to let me through.
I'm sorry, sir, you can't come through. There's been an accident.
Oh, no, there's been an accident. I think it's my wife down there.
I see. Would you come with me, please?
I got to the end of Kennel Lane and the police wouldn't let me go any further. And it was a couple of hours later after that I found out what had happened to Julie. But she was just such a lovely person. You would really think that she would be the last person that anybody would want to kill.
Peter Rigby, there must have been a motive. There must have been a reason for this.
There has to be a motive, but unfortunately we haven't identified one yet. But we do think it could be drug related, and that's because of the amount of drugs, syringes, etc. that we found in Kennel Lane. It also could be robbery orientated, but we know for a fact that the victim wasn't carrying anything of value. We also think it could be sexual, but evidentially we can't confirm that.
Do you reckon there's somebody watching tonight knows who did it?
There must be someone out there who knows something, whether it be in the criminal fraternity or it's a member of someone's family. They must have seen some kind of changes in their behaviour. We need, if anyone's got the slightest idea at all, please ring our incident room and come forward.
This happened on Wednesday the 22nd of July in the afternoon, so somebody's behaviour that changed in that area.
I'd imagine if the offender's got any kind of conscience at all, their behaviour must have started to change since that date.
And this is in the sort of Chester, Northwich area?
This is on the main A556 road which leads between Chester and Northwich.
Now there are several people we need to eliminate, one of which of course we showed was the chap with this stick. It's a very distinctive walking stick he's got.
It is very distinctive, and it remains a mystery to the inquiry teams. We have made numerous inquiries to try and trace the owner. It's the handle which is distinctive. It's interwoven in shape. It's tapered in length, the stick itself, and it's highly polished and dark red.
So if that's yours, you know who it is, or if you made it, that's an elimination. There's the man with the silver Orion we saw, who was dark-haired and right, quite close-shaved. That's an elimination. Anyone else you need to find?
Yeah, we know that there's a vehicle, a dark blue Cavalier, which frequents the lane. We're not saying it was there on the day in question, the 22nd of July, but we know from other witnesses that it has been there. What is distinctive about this vehicle is that it's got a dog cage in the back, so it could be someone purely just walking a dog.
A lot of people do walk their dogs there.
They
so
do,
again,
indeed.
Just an elimination. Anybody else?
Yes, we know of a male that was seen running, not in Kennel Lane where the murder occurred, but in a neighbouring lane, Daleford's Lane, approximately 3:50 p.m. on the date in question. And this male is described as being young. He's 20 years of age. He's got short, close-cropped hair. He's wearing a long-sleeved dark shirt and jeans. He appeared agitated. He appeared to be carrying something in his hand, either a red rag or something like that.
All right, that's a very important sighting, and again, that needs to be eliminated. Is there any way you can help? The Webb family, of course, so anxious tonight, hoping people will call. If there's anything you can add, if you have any suspicions, any answers for this inquiry at all, don't hesitate. It's a free call here to the studio, 0500 600 600, or Cheshire Police on 01244 613 298. That's Chester, 613 298.
We have some security video to show you that several people are anxious that you shouldn't see. So anxious, in fact, that a gang posing as police officers tried to steal some of it. The video shows someone aged about 50 posing as a company director who wanted to buy some jewellery for his staff. He chose some expensive watches and said he'd send his driver back with a cheque. And here's the chauffeur. He's in his mid-20s, and please call us if you know him, as he took away some expensive watches like these. But the cheque was forged, and here he is at another jeweller's in London, again having been sent to collect watches for his so-called boss, and again bearing a forged cheque. This time the staff became suspicious and seized the cheque, but the man made off. And now a third man, a new chauffeur, but the same old con. The staff double-checked their call to the Building Society, and when they too refused to accept the forgery, the driver again went off empty-handed. 0500 600 600 for any of these three, or ring the local police on 0171 321 9872. That's 0171 321 9872.
We often complain that security video is terrible. The cameras are poor and badly sighted and the tape very old. But look at this. This could almost be a TV studio. In fact, it's a jeweller's shop in Royston in Hertfordshire, and these two men spent almost 10 minutes parading in front of the camera. Who are they? We would like to know, and so would lots of other people, because they're on a spending spree with other people's credit cards. And have a listen to the big man.
Oh, right. No, actually, a lighter. You got a lighter? Oh, right. You go.
The first man is late 20s, early 30s, about 5'10", with short, curly black hair. His companion is tall, possibly 6'2". He's roughly the same age, that's early to mid-30s, with heavy build and short brown receding hair. And in November, he had a gap instead of his two front teeth. 0500 600 600 or call local police on 01223 358 966. That's Cambridge 358 966.
7 arrests since last month's programme as a direct result of calls from Crimewatch viewers. One result was in a paedophile inquiry. 3 youths were found after a serious assault on a passer-by one night at the Elephant and Castle in South London. One man gave himself up at a police station over an inquiry into a bogus company that had been trading in Essex. A man is on remand after several Sudanese doctors had been targeted and conned out of money. And the Crown Prosecution Service is considering evidence against another man over a conspiracy to supply controlled drugs. What's more, several items were identified in our Aladdin's Cave last month, including the corner chairs, the grandfather clock, and 2 boxing certificates.
There are 2 people I'd like your help to find, and both are wanted for offences that go back many years. First, a man almost 70 who's known as Bob, Robert Briscoe Cummins. He comes from Kirby and may still be in Merseyside. He might be able to help detectives solve a series of sexual assaults on children that started in the 1970s and culminated in a victim's suicide attempt 2 months ago. If you've seen Bob Cummins, please call without delay 0500 600 600 or call the Merseyside Police on 0151 777 6566. That's Liverpool 777 6566. Now, the next has many names as well as a fairly checkered career. He's really William Tutty, 46, about 5'8", with short grey hair and a 4-inch scar on the right of his neck. He's been wanted for 10 years by 3 police forces across the country. Now, all sorts of people have lodged complaints about him, and many thousands of pounds seem to have vanished at times when he's been around. He may be trying to get work as a gardener or a handyman, perhaps on a large estate. If you've seen him, please don't hesitate to call 0500 600 600 or call the local police on 01423 505 541. That's Harrogate 505 541.
As you may have seen in the last week, there have been national headlines about 2 linked rapes in the southeast of England. There's a particular interest in them because the 2 episodes were separated by 6 years, and there's concern that other women may have been attacked in the time between but not reported it to the police. The most recent attack was 6 months ago in Bermondsey, southeast London. But the first case we know of was in 1992 in Brentwood, Essex.
There are times when I feel like a frightened child. I'm 32 years old. I can't walk down the street in the dark. He's taken away a sense of security I had that I didn't know I'd got until he took it away.
I saw a chap outside the house. He was appeared to be loitering or looking up my neighbour's drive. I also noticed the chap because he was in a shirt that was open. It was like a lumberjack shirt, and it was a cold day.
Yeah. Okie doke. Many thanks. Bye.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, I'm glad it's Friday. Oh.
I approached the car, I saw two men walking towards me. I remember one had a check shirt on. Now, I don't even know if they were together. I must have been there for just under 5 minutes, and I looked up, and as I turned the lights on to the car, the man with the check shirt was coming back into the car park. I just thought it was a bit strange that he was walked out and then walked back in.
After the Christmas break, I think it was back to work on Thursday, and then Friday, I think I just wanted a night in watching the telly. Veg out in front of the telly with a few beers. Nice Friday night. I was a few feet away from my car, and then I heard footsteps behind me, and then all of a sudden this arm came around my neck, and something I thought was a knife was dug in my thigh. He told me to get in, and then he sexually assaulted me. He then told me to drive to the back of the car park where there were no cars. It was quite a dark and desolate area. My main intent was to stay alive, and I really truly believed he would kill me. That's why it's got to be stopped, because one day he might. And he told me to count to 100. I think I got to 10. And I just cried for my mum. I just wanted my mum. I was like a 5-year-old who fell over and grazed a knee. I just wanted my mum.
I was hungry, I couldn't be bothered to cook that night, so off to the fish and chip shop. And then in the background I noticed a gentleman come up from the car park. He had a lumberjacket type shirt on. Over the top he was wearing a jacket, sort of like a bomber jacket type. Very much an average sort of face. He had a very straight mouth.
The rapist was never traced. From January 1992, we roll on 6 years to March 1998, and from Brentwood, Essex to South Bermondsey in southeast London. Someone had put 2 pallets together to form a makeshift bed on waste ground next to South Bermondsey station. A witness recalls...
As I walked down past the bus stop near the station, I happened to look up, and I saw this man dressed in black. It might be just an innocent person standing there, but it was strange the way he was looking in the back of the houses, looking over towards the caravan site. He was immaculately dressed. His hair was blonde, like a dirty blonde, so his fringe was a bit lighter, and it was cut straight.
The man in black then walked off into the wasteland. That day, March the 9th, the stranger was seen several times. Who was he? If it was you, please call in for straightforward elimination.
Oh, hi, it's me. It's 7:15. Just to let you know I'm on my way home. Should be there in about an hour. Okay, bye. Come on, you don't need to do this. You can have all my money. I know loads of people with drug problems. Help me, someone, please.
Behind the wasteland, there's an industrial estate, and a security guard there thought he heard somebody call out. She was only 4 yards away, but it went quiet, and through the undergrowth, he saw nothing. Just once during her ordeal, the woman caught a glimpse of her attacker. This is her artist's impression. He was late 20s to early 30s, short to medium height, medium build, with small, stubby hands. He was wearing a dark hat with a motif and a green fleece top. Well, Chief Superintendent Lee Weavers, without going into detail, you are confident that it's the same man who committed both attacks in 1992 and 1998, aren't you?
That's right, absolutely.
What could he have been doing, though, in the intervening time between 92 and 98?
Well, that's really what we want to find out. He may still live in Essex, he may now live in South Bermondsey, he may travel extensively throughout the south of England or throughout the UK. We really just don't know.
And he could have been in prison in that time,
Yes.
so prison officers take note.
Yes, he could have been in prison, he may have been abroad, but we really do need to try and actually identify him and locate him.
Well, given that he was at liberty, do you think there may have been other victims in that intervening time who haven't come forward and reported anything?
Yes, I think there's a high probability that he has committed other offences and that he has a criminal record of some type. What I can't be certain of, that he's only committed very serious sexual offences. They may have been of a more minor nature.
Now, we've seen the descriptions given by the two victims, but what other behavioural characteristics are there of interest?
Yeah, there's some really quite striking features. He always attacks from the rear. He's quite calm, almost reassuring at times, but takes quite firm control. He uses very similar words in a number of aspects of the attacks, but in particular I'd highlight the fact that on the Brentwood offence in 1992 he used the term no big lights, just little lights.
This is referring to the car?
Absolutely. This is when they've turned the headlights off and only used the side lights as shown in the reconstruction. That's a peculiar term, not something I've heard before, and I suspect other people other than our victim have heard it as well, and I'd like particularly to try and hear from people tonight who may have heard someone using that expression.
Now, you've got some very good quality CCTV footage from South Bermondsey Station in the moments actually following the attack, and people that you wouldn't mind tracing, I think.
Yes, that's right. There are a number of stills that are both frontal and rear views, and I'm sure people will actually be able to identify themselves. We'd urge them to contact us. We need to actually see whether they can help us in some way, or at the very least eliminate them from the inquiry.
Now, these two attacks that we know about occurred on or near railway stations. Is that significant, or do you think he could attack anywhere?
Well, the first two we know about are at railway stations. I actually think he could attack in a number of venues where there are wide open spaces where young women are walking alone in the early evening. What I'm convinced of is this man will strike again, and we do need everybody's help to try and actually try and arrest him before that occurs.
Chief Superintendent, let's hope we do. Thank you very much. Well, if you have any suspicions on this case, and if you yourself, as we said, have seen this man or been approached by him, please do call us straight away. Don't hold any evidence back. You can ask to speak to a woman officer if you prefer to do that. 0500 600 600, or call the special incident number 0800 389 2873. That's free phone 0800 389 2873.
There's still a lot more to tell you from previous appeals. A man has pleaded guilty to rapes in Streatham in South London following a Crimewatch reconstruction back in May. At Plymouth Crown Court 3 weeks ago, a man was sentenced for a robbery. You may recall the case. A shopkeeper was found unconscious. It was thought that she'd had a terrible fall until her son came back from Canada and out of curiosity ran back the shop security video and saw she'd been attacked. And the son has written to Crimewatch to say, "We owe the arrest and conviction to your programme, and I would like to thank everyone involved." And after our last appeal last November, a man has been sentenced for 24 sexual offences against boys in his care. From a case last December, a man's been jailed for theft, deception and perverting the course of justice, and a result not due to Crimewatch. You may recall a reconstruction about the death of Alice Rye in Birkenhead on Merseyside. A man has now been charged with her murder, as well as a string of other offences, including rape, incest and burglary. And let me tell you a little bit about the calls that are coming in at the moment. We've had 35 calls here alone to the studio. That's probably 60 or 70 in total about the Julia Webb murder, and I know that 5 names have come in on that. In one of the other ones, I'm obviously not going to tell you which name. We've got pretty good evidence. We know where he is tonight, and the prison officer thinks that he can identify him as the right person. Jackie.
I've 3 people of Arabic appearance I'd like your help to find after 2 separate offences in the West End of London. First, a couple who engineered a theft of jewellery in fashionable Regent Street. These 2 are going through some very expensive pieces, including diamond earrings and a matching white gold and diamond ring that they'd seen in the window. Soon after, at the store discovered the real jewels have been switched for these fakes. The couples are in West End clothing but claim to speak little English. She's older than he is, probably in her mid-40s, and he seems in his 30s. If you know them, give us a call, 0500 600 600, or you can call the local police on 0171 321 8873. That's 0171 321 8873. The next offence is more serious, involving the threat of a firearm. The offender tried to disguise himself by wearing a hood, but as you'll see, it's pretty ineffective. He produced what seemed to be a handgun in a plastic bag in a shop in London's Edgware Road, but the shopkeeper was having none of it. The would-be robber was frustrated. Who is he? He's Arabic, very short at 5'3" and about 19. Do please give us a call 0500 600 600 or ring the local police direct on 0171 321 9875. That's 0171 321 9875.
Yeah. Now this is a curious appeal, a mystery that must have a logical explanation. About 3 months ago, this man, Charles Anderson, was run over by a bus, but quite why and how is baffling. Charles had been to a nightclub near his home in Chelmsford. It was a Monday night in June, and to jog your memory, it was the day that England played Tunisia in the World Cup. As you can see, he left on his own at around 11 o'clock in the evening. Well, a few minutes later, this coach was stolen from its depot nearby. The owners had left the key in the ignition. Soon after, the bus was seen driving erratically before it went into a cul-de-sac, a small residential road called Orton Close in the village of Margaretting. Charles was later found crushed to death with the ignition keys beside him.
I do, yeah.
Well, Chris Booth, a mysterious death to which there could be a number of answers. Do you think that Charles stole the bus himself, or indeed that he was on that bus?
Thanks for that.
Well, we certainly know he was in Chelmsford a short time before the bus was stolen, and we do have a number of witnesses who saw what they describe as at least 2 people on the bus. So of course it is a possibility that Charles was either driving the bus or was a passenger on it.
So you want more people coming forward who have seen the bus, and of course, you know, you recognise it. It didn't have its lights on. I think it was being driven erratically. It was a normal, regular passenger bus, which probably wouldn't be seen around at that time of day. What route did the bus take?
The bus was stolen from the bus depot in Duke Street in Chelmsford. It then travelled down Coval Lane into Waterhouse Lane, and then onto the A1016, which is a dual carriageway which leads towards London. It was a short while after that that it was found in Orton Close in Margaretting.
So when it got into Orton Close, then what happened?
Well, as you said earlier, Charles's body was found nearby to the coach. There's a number of possibilities. He may have got out of it to see how he could manoeuvre it. He may have been the driver and failed to set the handbrake, and it's then rolled back and collided with him. Or someone else may have been driving it and he'd been directing them back.
So if there was another person involved, whether it was deliberate, whether it was an accident, obviously, what would you say to that person if he or she is watching today?
Well, this tragedy has left Charles's family obviously very, very distraught, and they need answers to help them come to terms with their grief. Hopefully someone coming forward could help them find those answers so they could try and put their lives back together after the loss of Charles.
And if it was an accident, perhaps help that person themselves.
Absolutely.
To get into perspective, or to...
Doubtless they too would be traumatised by the event.
Right. Well, Chris Booth, let's hope that someone does ring in. There is a £10,000 reward, incidentally. There must be people watching who know something about what happened. 0500 600 600, or ring the incident room on 01245 452 057. That's Chelmsford 452 057.
As we all know, one of the worst insults is to say that someone would steal from the blind. Well, this man may be able to explain who did precisely that. Someone fiddled the accounts of the Eston NAB in Cleveland. NAB stands for the National Association for the Blind. Most of the assets went missing, and so did George Arnold Fawcett. That's his real name, but he used lots of different aliases, including Dyson, Foster, Jackson, Keeling, Shepherd, Thompson and Trainer. If you're sighted, you'd know him if you came across him. He's 73, with a scar on the left side of his face, tattoos on both arms, and walks with a strange gait, sometimes described as a limp. If you know where he is, 0500 600 600, or call the local police on 0191 375 2316. That's Newcastle 375 2316.
And watch out for this man too. He's in a building society in Mansfield, Nottinghamshire. He has a stolen credit card and is trying to withdraw £500, but was rumbled by staff and fled. But on at least one other earlier occasion, he'd been successful, using stolen documents to get cash. Here last year in Wrexham, North Wales, he was trying to get foreign currency using stolen cards. He's small to medium height, going bald and in his 30s. Please call us with his name on 0500 600 600, or call the local police on 01978 290 272. That's Wrexham 290 272.
Now a reconstruction of the sort of scene everybody dreads. There's a man behaving badly, a citizen who tried to do the decent thing and calm him down, resulting in the Good Samaritan being murdered. The victim, Herbie Williams, really was a model citizen, ironically a volunteer worker for victim support who counselled people on how to cope with their suffering through crime.
I suppose he was a person who was ideally suited to being a volunteer with victim support because he was a gentle person, he was caring, he was generous with his time, and I think he was willing to listen to people.
He made me feel uncomfortable, so much so that I didn't even ask him to get off my jacket. I remember thinking that the bus was fairly empty, so why did he have to crowd my space?
So, every week I ask my St. Teresa candles. And what's your excuse this time?
Herbie, I'm so sorry. We haven't got any in stock again.
It's okay, I'm only joking. I'll afford the plain ones.
Okay, sure. That'll be £1, please. Thank you very much.
Bye now.
See you soon. Bye.
I didn't look at him. I felt this energy from him which made me afraid to do anything that might upset him.
You really shouldn't do that, you know.
Leave me alone! Leave me alone!
You don't have to behave that way.
Leave me alone! I got a knife. Cut you.
The man just exploded straight away. He was shouting abuse continuously. He could have turned on anybody.
It looked so mean. I said to myself, oh, I better keep quiet. Maybe this man might jump up on me next.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
The next stop on the 185 route was just after Vauxhall Bridge. It wasn't Herbie's normal stop, but perhaps he wanted to avoid further confrontation.
Follow you! Want to fight? Follow you and fight! Got a knife!
Oh, please, leave me alone. I've done nothing to you.
Leave me alone! Please! Leave me alone! Just leave me alone!
All of us started shouting, oh, he's got a knife, he's got a knife. So I said, why can't he run away? Because if it was me, I would definitely take off.
Quick! Up! Get some help! Call the police, get an ambulance! He's been stabbed!
I've never seen something like that in my life. Somebody just killing or stabbing somebody, broad daylight. I said, no, you can't get away with this.
We'll be all right, we'll be all right. There's help is on its way. An ambulance is coming.
The knife man went south across the Albert Embankment and into New Spring Gardens Walk.
Didn't know I was following him. I was nervous. I was thinking that I might be the next victim because if he stabbed somebody that has not provoked him, what is he going to do with me who is trying to chase him? I saw him throw something in the bush. All I really wanted to do was to locate exactly where he was going, and it would be easier for the police to get hold of him.
That man has just stabbed somebody. Please call the police. Just call the police. Sure.
He had a rough face with wide eyes, a beard and bushy dark hair with grey flecks. He was short to medium height, light-skinned with a West Indies accent, and aged in his mid-40s.
I hesitated because I was afraid that he may be waiting for me because he had already seen me following him. I couldn't find him, and I was really angry or disappointed with myself that I've missed him because he was so close to me and I just lost him like that.
The knife had gone through Herbie's heart and an airborne doctor performed surgery at Vauxhall Bridge. But Herbie died shortly after arriving at hospital.
It's a terrible waste of someone who was doing an awful lot of good in this world and would have continued to do that, I'm sure. And yet it's taken away in a very short and in a very violent way.
Mike Petra, from the killer's behaviour, presumably he's mentally ill, he's psychotic.
That's one of the lines of inquiry we are pursuing. Herbie's attacker was very agitated, aggressive, totally unpredictable, and of course he was armed with this knife. If there's anybody out there in the field of mental welfare that recognises the photo fit or the description, I'd ask them to give us a ring.
Psychologists, psychiatrists, psychiatric nurses, psychiatric social workers. He's probably been through community care of one sort or another.
Yes, that's a possibility. The other possibility is that he's on drugs. And once again, anybody who has, in another agency, who has dealings with this kind of person, recognises the photo fit, please give us a ring.
Very traumatic this for all the people on the bus who saw it happen. There were large numbers of people on the bus.
Yes, there were 37 people on the bus, and so far 14 people have come forward. 14? Yes.
So 23 you haven't traced yet?
No, it is a bit disappointing, but perhaps those people were frightened, apprehensive of coming forward to police. What I would say to them, it's imperative for this inquiry that you make yourselves known and you speak to us.
Mike, presumably they didn't know that you needed to talk to them. There's something they couldn't forget. Most of them saw it happen. Of course, the bus stopped there and they had to get out at Vauxhall and virtually walk past the body.
I understand what you're saying, but everybody who left the bus there would have walked past Herbie lying on the pavement.
This is the 185 bus. It happened at Vauxhall Bridge, Wednesday the 15th of July. Where was the bus going on to?
No, the bus travels from Kennington, Camberwell, Catford and then on to Lewisham. And I'm pretty confident that our man either lives or has connections with this particular part of London.
So you're particularly with psychiatric workers and so forth down in that southeast
South
of
London, yes,
South London area. Yes. It could have been that he came from and lived in the Victoria area where the bus started.
Yeah, I agree. And we've made extensive inquiries in there. We've seized endless amounts of TV videos. Unfortunately, our man does not appear on those videos. But if you were in the area of Victoria on that day and you think you've seen our man, again, please give us a ring.
We've given a good description of him. The truth is, our actor is just slightly fatter than the guy you're after. The man, though in his mid-40s, looks very much like our actor, is actually quite fit, quite agile.
Yeah, he is stocky, but he's not noticeably overweight, and he is quite fit.
Now, after those shots we've just seen, he threw these trousers under a tree. This is one of the ones recovered. 3 identical pairs of trousers, grey with zips and so forth. You know the wholesaler that these come from. They've got no identifying details other than this washing instruction. Did he steal these 3 pairs of trousers? Or
that is a real possibility. The waist sizes were 28, 28 and 30. They certainly weren't for him. As you've said, they were sold from a wholesaler in Whitechapel to a street trader or storekeepers in central London. So if you are a storekeeper, street trader, and you sold those trousers, again, give us a ring.
Or had them stolen in mid-July. 0500 600 600 if there's anything you can do to help, please. Or ring the incident room 0181 247 8070. That's 0181 247 8070.
Well, a lot of calls coming in, 50 calls so far on the Julia Webb murder. We've had a lot of information about the elderly gentleman's walking stick on that. The Brentford Bermondsey rapes, well, 46 calls, and a lot of those, interestingly, talking about those big lights, little lights comments. And a lot of people are suggesting that it's an army or a driving instructor's term. So a lot of calls coming in on all the other cases as well. And you can help to stop a growing menace, and that is people abusing trust of open premises and stealing from churches. Well, who would do such a thing? Well, here's the answer. 2 respectable-looking men in their 20s. This church is in Montgomery, in Newtown in Powys. Incidentally, look at how wide these camera shots are. Now, if you're fitting a security camera, make sure you sight it so you can get close-ups. If the camera had focused just on the entrance door, these faces would be in much sharper definition. Still, if you've seen these 2 in the Mid-Wales area, you might know who they are. If it helps, they may have a blue Ford Escort. So call us here in the studio on 0500 600 600 or call the police direct if you prefer on 01 686 623 735. That's Newtown 623 735.
Car theft is one of the biggest crimes in Britain. We have a worse record than almost any other country. But at last we're doing something about it, and part of that is a secure car park scheme which is paying dividends. Often it puts car thieves off stealing cars, but in this case maybe it can put a car thief in the dock because we have pictures of him. Police are very keen to find this man who's tinkering under the bonnet of someone else's car. This was about a year ago in Dunfermline. The camera operator wasn't the only one to spot him. The owner was none too pleased either. Who is the redhead caught red-handed? Police are now especially anxious to trace this man. If you've any ideas, well, we're all waiting for your call on 0500 600 600 and it's free to us, or you can ring the incident room on 01383 318 725. That's Dunfermline 318 725. And just before we finish, you may have read about a case where a lorry driver dumped some deadly asbestos by the roadside and children were found playing with it. We've another case of dangerous fly tipping, as it's called. In this case, dumping waste that contained materials including gas canisters. This is a lay-by near junction 11 of the M40 near Banbury in Oxfordshire. But who is the driver? Here he is. He looks a bit like Rod Stewart, though Rod Stewart's not going to be flattered by that comparison. If you recognise this man, please call the Environment Agency on 0118 953 5860. That's Reading 953 5860. Or give us a call here in the studio on 0500 600 600.
The studio number has 40 lines and we're waiting for your call on any of our cases. We'll be here until midnight. You can also see other numbers in a moment and they're listed on CFAX on page 621. We'll be back with Crime Watch Update at 5 to midnight and join us for next month's Crime Watch on Tuesday, October the 6th. But before then, in 2 weeks' time, watch out for Crime Watch Still Unsolved. Major cases with new clues that detectives are convinced viewers could still crack. We revisit crimes such as the murder of 14-year-old Kate Bushell while she was walking her dog. Maybe on second sight, you'll find that you can help solve them.
Meanwhile, if you're on the internet, you can visit us at any time. We're on the World Wide Web at bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. And surfers can send us information at Crimewatch UK at the BBC. That's CWUK at bbc.co.uk. If you've been the victim of crime and you'd like someone to talk to, you can find support line numbers on CFAX page 621, and on any crime you can call Crime Stoppers, anonymously if you like, on 800 555 111. Don't forget, Crime Watch Still Unsolved in 2 weeks' time, and don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.